Hello and welcome in again to another edition of the fun-filled Musings from the Mountains podcast presented by WVSports.com. I am your tour guide, your managing editor of the site, Keenan Cummings.
And I'm staff writer, Patrick Kotnik.
Got a lot to discuss. We'll jump in straight into basketball. West Virginia got bamboozled. Bamboozled, that's still a word, right?
Yeah.
At Kansas State. Utterly disgusting performance. The type of performance that makes you kind of question where the team was at. West Virginia really wasn't in the game. Struggled to score, struggled to defend, which I think you can live with the turnovers. You can live with the inability to put the ball in the basket at times. But when you're not playing defense on top of those things, it's not good, Pat.
I mean, the effort just wasn't there for West Virginia on both ends of the floor. Huggins said during post-game that he said to the team before the game that Kansas State is a team that was desperate for a win. They were winless in the conference, and with a game at home like that, I mean, they were going to be desperate for a win. They were going to come out swinging, which they did. West Virginia was unprepared, and it showed.
The good news is there's a lot of questions after that game. Did Kansas State expose West Virginia? Did Kansas State break West Virginia? Was West Virginia defensively maybe not what we thought they were? Although I find that hard to believe, being the number one team in defensive efficiency. Well, all those questions were answered, and then some.
Mm-hmm.
You had a quick turnaround. 48 hours later, West Virginia was playing Texas in the Coliseum, and Texas probably wishes that game never happened. They got absolutely ran through. Any question you might have had about West Virginia kind of resorted right back to the mean. Right around where they were, field goal percentage about 30% for Texas. This game was 97 to 58, correct? Was it 59?
59.
97 to 59. It wasn't even that close. I think West Virginia could have scored 140 if they wanted to. It looked like NBA Street. And they were just out there making shots and everywhere, uncontested dunks. Texas looked a lot like West Virginia on the road, but unfortunately, I don't think this is a bad Texas basketball team that they embarrassed. I think they're sitting around 60-some in the net. I think they just caught West Virginia at the wrong time, really.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at West Virginia in that game against Texas, I mean, they just showed that, there were so many questions after the Kansas State game. They showed that they're a resilient group. And I think for as young as this West Virginia team is, especially, it says a lot that they're able to come off of a tough road loss to Kansas State and, put on that kind of a performance on both ends of the floor, both on the offensive end and defensive end. But I think it also speaks volumes that West Virginia has 3 losses this year. They've been able to answer each of those losses with a win, and against Texas, it was a big win. And any question that you had, they were answered. I mean, they had effort. The effort was so much more better against Texas on both ends of the floor, and they really shined.
2 stats that really stood out to me: 8 turnovers on 67 possessions. Coming into the game, West Virginia was averaging a turnover on 21% of their possessions.
They were eighth in the Big 12 in turnovers.
21% of their possessions that resulted in a turnover. Even more alarming, 11% of those were live ball, which those are the turnovers you never want to have, lead to easy points, easy buckets, get people in transition, and get those numbers that Bob Huggins talks about all the time. That stood out. Secondly, what stood out, 1.448 points per possession for West Virginia. That is insane. They scored they shot around 51% for the game, but were able to score pretty much at will. This was a team effort. West Virginia scored 97 points. All right, 97. No player scored over 13. That's the most points West Virginia scored in a game that's finished in regulation in the Big 12 since 2016.
Yeah, I'll correct myself there. West Virginia actually had the most turnovers in the Big 12 coming into the matchup. But, I mean, there's one negative, I would say, to point out for to take away from the Mountaineers, their performance against Texas. Free throw shooting. I mean, that's been kind of a weakness for West Virginia all season. 19 of 32 from the free throw line. That has to get better. But I mean, the fact that they're still improving in those areas, I think the turnovers only have an 8 is a bit. That's a big sign of life. That's a big sign of progression for West Virginia. But especially free throw shooting, they got to get better at that. They want to make a run, get a Big 12 tournament title. They want to make a run at the NCAA title. They're gonna have to improve at the free throw line, definitely.
Yeah, West Virginia was averaging about 18 turnovers per game in Big 12 play coming into the game, which obviously is not good. They gone 3-1 over their last 4, but it's hard to win in the long term if you're giving the ball away. But I think the one thing West Virginia kind of takes away from this is when you hit on all cylinders like this team's gonna be tough to beat. Obviously, you're not gonna shoot 50% every night. You're not gonna have the success they had every night. But this is a kind of a glimpse into what this team can be if it learns how to take care of the basketball, play the defense it's been accustomed to playing, and really kind of stepping up and handling their roles. Of that 97 points they had, like I said, one player or 2 players had 13 points. The rest it was a total team effort. And you got some guys sparked that really had been struggling.
Jermaine Haley, Emmett Matthews especially, and Jordan McCabe. All three of those guys stepped up against Texas. But Keenan, like you said, I mean, I feel like West Virginia, a lot of games this season, a lot of their big wins, they were carried by their performance on defense. And very few times this year, Texas is an example. TCU is an example of where they just put it all together. They can, like you said, they can limit turnovers. They can improve at the free throw line and generate some ball movement and have more success on the offensive end, and then play to the high level on the defensive end that they're capable of playing. I mean, this team could definitely be dangerous down the stretch.
Yeah, number 7 in the net rankings. I think Bob Huggins would take these numbers every night. They had 23 offensive rebounds in the game. Texas had 25 rebounds total, plus 28 on the boards. That's insane. They were also at points in the paint, 52-18. I think Bob Huggins is going to take those every single night. Second chance points were plus 23. That's what you want to see if you're West Virginia. That's been a formula for them over the years. West Virginia's got a game this weekend. Maybe they're trying to reverse a little bit of fortunes. The Big 12 SEC Challenge has been a good thing for the Big 12, not so good for West Virginia. They're 1-5. They have 2 narrow losses at home, but really 3 blowouts on the road. They get a Missouri team that's 9-9, ripe for the picking. This is West Virginia's chance to kind of reverse fortunes a little bit, Pat.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, and we saw against Kansas State. I mean, you know, any team can beat any other team on any given day. So, definitely important for West Virginia not to take this one lightly and to be ready to play. And I think the fact that it will be in Morgantown will give West Virginia a huge advantage as well. But you know, at the end of the day, they just got to be ready to play.
Moving to recruiting a little bit, West Virginia hosted an official visitor over the weekend, went under the radar. Avarius Sparrow, running back from Orlando, played at Jones. This is a really interesting story, actually phenomenally interesting. Didn't start playing football until 2 years ago. They started him out at linebacker at his school, kicked him over to running back, like the way he moved in space, that kind of thing. This past year, kid was a monster. Rushed for over 2,300 yards, 26 touchdowns, and missed 2 games. Took an official visit to West Virginia over the weekend. I think if you're zoning in on West Virginia's running back targets, I had some posts about this on our premium message board. He's the guy to circle right now. Yeah, LaDamian Webb off the board, committed to Florida State. Not really a surprise if you've been following our coverage. Things tended to trend that way a little bit. But Sparrow's not a new name. West Virginia offered him in mid-December. They've been recruiting him for a while. There's a good connection there with Chad Scott. Watch his tape. I really recommend you check it out. Fast kid. Really is shocking to me that he's not been playing running back very long. So keep an eye on him. I think it'll be interesting to see what unfolds there. Another guy that visited, as Chad Simmons, our Georgia analyst, first reported, was Thomas over the weekend. Pat Thomas come over. He came this, or James Thomas, came this weekend. And I think that's a name to watch. West Virginia's been recruiting James for a while. He's got some things he needs to clear, some hurdles he needs to clear. But if everything checks out, that could be a name to keep an eye on in February or possibly later, depending on how things unfold. West Virginia's got 20 or 19 commitments right now, 18 signees, can take 22, but obviously they can get more creative. We'll see how that unfolds. Couple more weekends left. Junior days are big. We've got a lot of junior day coverage over on the site. A ton of talented prospects on campus this past weekend, and there's going to be a lot more over the next 2. We'll have a lot to talk about with recruiting, even with the dead period coming in February. Should be an exciting time. The 2021 class is in full gear. 2020 class is starting to close a little bit. So we'll see how things unfold over the next couple weeks. But I hope you enjoyed this in a new location this time, trying something new here.
Undisclosed.
Yes, undisclosed. If you like this, if you enjoy what we do, hit subscribe. We do this regularly. Try to do it 1 or 2 times, maybe sometimes 3 times a week. Going to get more into breaking news too. When stuff happens, we're going to try to bring it to you as it happens.
Instant reaction.
Yes, some instant reaction, instant analysis type deals. So tell your friends. It's an exciting time for Music from the Mountains. But thanks again for joining us for another episode. See you soon.